Okay, so in this subsection, we're going to talk about fat loss. More specifically, how to plan for, set up, and execute a successful fat loss diet. And as somewhat of an introduction, I wanted to just compare two different types of people, although there are many, in this scenario, two different types of hypothetical individuals and two different setups or sets of expectations that we can place upon them and why each might be appropriate for one and not so appropriate for the other. And I think this is an important conversation because when you are about to embark on fat loss, and let's say you've not done it before, you don't know what works and you don't know what doesn't, and you essentially don't have much knowledge or experience in the area, then you need to initially set realistic expectations for yourself. You need to decide what's important to you, what's realistic, and then set expectations for your potential rate of progress on the back of that to set you up for not feeling like a failure, not comparing yourself to other people, not feeling like you're underachieving, and actually probably being happy in the process and therefore sustaining the results. So, important topic of conversation in my mind, the two different types of people. So, we've got one individual on the left and one individual on the right, and this individual on the left, in this example, would be potentially your just average Joe, your lifestyle Lucy. And let's say they enjoy working out and looking after themselves. They're starting to maybe take their training a little bit more seriously, and they're at the point where they want to look better, work hard in order to feel better, and ultimately just be more confident in their skin. They want to get a bit leaner, and that's cool. But this person also hasn't reached the level of commitment in which the other person has, and they might not get a genuine reward response that's as powerful from just being on plan. That means they're happy to completely restrict all of their fond comforts. So we have to consider what's realistic for this individual as opposed to someone who's highly dedicated, has been taking potentially physique development in whatever avenue you might think of quite seriously for a long time. And this individual, because of their level of dedication, they might have been doing it for a long time, they're going to get a really significant, genuine reward response from just knowing they did what they should have done. So you might be able to set more aggressive, intense expectations on this individual because they will thrive. Whereas if you restrict too highly and set too high expectations for your average Joe, your average lifestyle Lucy, then they might burn out, they might decide it's not for them, they might not enjoy the process and ultimately not get the results. So it's about realistic thinking. So your average Joe, your lifestyle Lucy, let's talk a bit more about a little bit more of a casual fat loss approach for them. Now, on the other hand, someone who's super dedicated, super keen, this person, you can execute a bit more of a concentrated fat loss phase. And I think in a world where everybody has an online coach and the whole purpose of working with a coach is to get you accelerated rates of progress and ultimately hold you accountable to a structure in which suits you but is optimized for the best results possible. In a world where that is common, we see people making these amazing transformations and losing X amount of kilograms in no time at all and ultimately looking fantastic on the back of it, which is great. But the average lifestyle Lucy or average Joe, who that style of approach might genuinely not work for them, it might, but it also might not. This person might compare themselves to somebody else, and they might place an expectation on themselves that they should be doing what this other person should be doing. And that is just not the case. So a more casual fat loss approach might be one, and I can't give too many specifics because it's very person dependent, but it might be an approach where you don't give them a deadline. You don't give them a certain amount of weight to lose. We don't have a target weight. You might, but you might not. You might just avoid having a time frame, and you're just going to find a rate of progress in which might not be completely linear because you might want to allow them a little bit of flexibility, a meal out once a week within some parameters. You might allow them a glass of wine or two on a Friday night. You might give them the freedom or at least allow them to work along on plan, but if they have something coming up, they can just enjoy themselves and let their hair down and take a day off basically, and this could promote sustainability and all of the different things that we can essentially do in order to make it feel like a less pressurized process. That might be enough just to make that person sustain and, should I say, even enjoy the process. They get lean, but let's say, for example, 1 week they lose half a kilo. The next week they have something on, they only lose 0.1. You're not going to shout at this person for that. So that's a bit more of a casual approach, okay? A bit of flexibility, no deadline, just a little bit of a less pressurized, more of a supportive, hopefully enjoyable process. Now, on the other hand, a bit more of a concentrated approach. This could be a situation where you've got something to get ready for, or you're just trying to maximize progress and essentially get the most out of the time that we have available to be alive. So for this individual, you might want to set them a deadline. You might want to say, we need to lose X amount in X amount of weeks, for example, and this boils down to them, therefore, having to adhere or try and aim for a certain rate of loss per week in order to look as you have calculated in the calculated amount of time and maximize that phase, so to speak. This would be a bit more of a concentrated approach. You might allow them less flexibility. They might have macro targets set where they're not allowed to go out for dinner and go over their macros at all. They have to count it within their macros. They're allowed less leeway. You might want to put a little bit more pressure on them because it's such a concentrated process that forces a bit more discipline. This is just a higher set of expectations. Both parties have to adhere to the laws of thermodynamics and essentially just what causes fat loss over time, but one hand is slower with a bit more enjoyment along the way and no essential deadline. And the concentrated approach, we have a deadline, we have a target, it's a little bit more aggressive, you're holding them a bit more accountable to achieve a slightly more aggressive rate of loss. So first of all, before you pursue fat loss, what I would encourage you to do is just potentially manage your expectations. Decide who you are, and you might be somewhere in between, and that's totally cool. But you need to be very honest with yourself about what is realistic for you, given your level of appreciation for your fond comforts. And if someone came along and took all the enjoyment out of your life, would you get a genuine, significant reward response from just knowing you've done what you should have done? Or would you kind of miss your meals out to look forward to once a week or once or every other week? Would you miss your glass of wine here or there? And do you really care about achieving 0.2 kilograms rate of loss more than if you were very aggressive with things? Now, on the other hand, if you're somebody who wants to be aggressive, you've got a deadline, you want to maximize your progress, and that means more to you and you like that, that's also totally cool. And in fact, there will be people who are just like this, competitors and things of that nature. So first of all, decide who you are, decide what's realistic, and then once you've got those expectations in place, we can talk about the finer details. So on to the next video. I hope this helps.